Good morning to you from wherever you're joining us from. My name is Helen Aura, and even as today we're all systems go on the 3rd and the D-Day for the Africa Climate Summit. Today is the D-Day. Why do I say that? Because today we await the Nairobi Declaration. And while we await that, by the end of today's session, I'm also joined by a panel of youth. We want to find out what exactly is the role of youth when it comes to matters climate change, and what can they do and what do they need when it comes to this conversation? Do they feel involved, or do they want even more to be done moving forward? I'm joined by Alana Chelagat, who is an 11-year-old, one of the environmentalists, and she's also the Little Miss Environmentalist Kenya. Alana, welcome to NTV. I'm also joined by Kevin Odongo. He is from Climate Clock. He is one of the youth championing for climate action and climate change in the country. Kevin, welcome to NTV. My two guests are also going to join us a bit later on, but we can actually kick off the conversation and we can start off. Alana, why are you actually an 11-year-old who's interested in climate change? Why is this the case?
Since I was young, I loved the environment. And there was this one time I saw my parents watching news, and I saw this family from the northern side in Turkana suffering from drought, and I started feeling so pity for them. And then I asked my mom, like, how do they have food to eat, but they didn't have food to eat? And then I told them if we can help them to do we can do something for them. And then my mom said they can plant trees. But me, I wanted to change this solution and make it not happen again.
Wow. And when you say actually this happened in northeastern Kenya, a lot of children, looking at the UN report that was actually released a few days ago before the summit began, it says that 98% of children in the African continent are the ones who suffer adversely from the effects of climate change. And one of the things that you mentioned, actually, when you saw them suffering because of lack of food, the other things that also children are suffering in drought-stricken areas is malnutrition. As a child in this industry, now that you've put your foot down and this is what you want to do, what changes would you like to see?
Actually, the first thing that I would like to see is for them to be happy and safe, and for us to help them, and then they can live even better. Yes.
All right. Kevin, you've been following what this summit is entailing. I can see our guest has joined us. We have on set Jodahi Petro, a youth, a champion for climate change, and he's very much so involved in the summit. He joins us all the way from Ethiopia. Jodahi, welcome to Kenya. What are your expectations, before I get back to Kevin, what are your expectations with this summit?
Well, the expectation that I have for this summit is that we have a consensus on the idea of what we want to do for climate change on our continent, because there has been a lot of projects, there has been a lot of ideas being shared all over our continent, our beautiful continent, but we're still not tapping into our cross-boundary knowledge that we already have, our indigenous knowledge that we already have on how we can incorporate climate change into various work that we're already working. So I think the Nairobi Declaration hopefully is going to bring in very good insight that we will also take it to the ground floor and also work on the grassroots level coming forward.
All right. Kevin, Jodahi has mentioned about grassroots level, and I know Climate Club also focuses on a lot of youth in the grassroots area and level. What are your expectations out of this summit? Do you feel as though so far so good, the youth are on the right trajectory moving forward?
Well, I think for the first time, our country, especially Kenya, and in the context of Africa, we've tried a little bit to give the youth space to voice their minds in the climate space, though it has not yet been given the attention in Kotawel. But we are so happy that our president gave us an opportunity to hold the Youth Climate Assembly, whereby the youth has come up with a declaration. And we are still waiting if the declaration that we gave him is going to be part of Nairobi Declaration. And Climate Clock is all about climate change emergency, whereby the youth needs to come out, because we have only been given only 6 years. Only 6 years. If we don't act in time, our planet is going to be on a mess. So it's upon us. We know very well that the youths have the numbers. And let's take advantage of our numbers to make sure that we give our climate the best. Because if we don't do, we are the ones that are going to be affected. Yes.
I see. Coming back to you, Alana, now that even the youth are being involved in the conversation, do you think it's time also children now take a step forward and be majorly involved in the conversation when it comes to climate change? And what would you like to see?
I would love to see, because us young children we have a voice to share, and we can help this planet and even talk to the leaders, and we can all save the planet. Yes.
All right. Kevin, Alana has raised a very important point, and if I may revert back also to the report by UNICEF, a lot of not only even children, but youth in the African continent are adversely affected by climate change. When you listen to the president's speech yesterday, he said Africa is the one that bears majority of the brunt of climate change. And this comes even as we emit less than 4% of the greenhouse gas emissions on an annual basis. When you look at the youth, we have the cyclones in Malawi, in Mozambique. Coming to Kenya, the Horn of Africa, we also have drought. We've experienced drought. And now the weather focus is now projecting that we're soon going to have El Nino. A lot of youth in these particular regions are also affected adversely. Number one, when it comes to health matters. And number two, also mentally, physically, in terms of them being displaced from their homes. Some of the action that has been brought forward and the challenges in regards to the declaration was to create green spaces and green opportunities for the youth. Do you think that is going to be achieved?
Well, sometimes we fear if the declaration is going to have a little bit of politics. If it doesn't have politics, we are going to be listened to. Because everybody has come up with a declaration. The youth has come with the youth declaration. People have come with their declaration. So we are waiting. But we are so hopeful that all the declarations that have been made to be implemented. We know very well that El Nino is there, whether we like it or not. But are we prepared? And the people that are going to be affected the most are the young people. Because if you see that most of the jobs that are being done by the young people, maybe if you see the SMEs, they're going to be affected by El Nino. When I talk of the slum areas, whereby that's where most of the young people are. If we don't take action towards El Nino preparation, El Nino preparedness, I think we are going to get it hard. We hope even this summit is going to tackle the El Nino, especially among the young people.
On your part, Jodahi?
Yeah. I think this has been an issue for quite some time, where Africa has been facing a lot of issues in regards to resiliency. And by the way, climate change doesn't have borders. At the end of the day, we are all facing it, but we haven't been able to adopt it in the right way. Even the Western countries and so many other places, we see that climate change have been affecting them, but they have been resilient enough and adapting to it in one way or form because they have the technology, the capacity development, and the money to actually be resilient for the people. How can we make Ethiopia and also the rest of Africa into being much more resilient and adapt to the climate change that is coming forward? And I feel like the higher officials, the high-level individuals that are in this summit have the responsibility to also incorporate the youth voices, the various parts of this beautiful continent issues into being a realization. Because we have seen a lot of discussions for quite some time, even if when we go out to the world, COP has been going on for the past 30 years almost, because we start from the Rio Declaration, and there hasn't been much change. So we really, especially as part of the youth community, I really hope to see that there is a capacity development from the youth end, where when we go there, we put a point on our declaration that this is what we need right now, and we need to be heard. And not only be heard, they have to come to us for the solutions, because not only we are the future, we are also the present. We need to be part of the parliament, we need to be able, with the political system, we need to be part of the innovation system, we need to be part of everywhere, so that we will be able to also make change for now and also for the future.
As youth, we've also complained often that we've not been involved in the conversation, and we want to see change. Do you feel as though the older generation has shortchanged you?
I think yes, without thinking.
Okay.
I think they do say, like, we want to give the youth the space, but it's all about the theory, but not the action. You know, this, my mentor do tell me that we try to say that we are empowering the youth, but that one is a political statement. We want them to invest in youth. You know,
What does the investment look like?
investing in youth is one of them, whereby give them a platform to air their grievances, risk in them. You know, when a youth, when you believe in him, he gives you whatever you want. But if you don't give him that chance to, if you don't risk in him, he will not give you that thing, because he will feel like, no, you don't trust in me. But the very moment, all the youths are not bad people. They're just human beings.
Alana is going to be a future youth, and she's going to look up to you guys in terms of now the spaces that you are and where you're seated. She's soon going to be seated there.
Yeah.
Alana, are you also champion the work that you do in school? Do you also now involve other children in what you do?
Yes. I even have a club called the Climate Change Educational Club.
Yes. Tell us more about that.
Me and my club, I just invented the club on July 28th. And I teach the children how we can use the 3 R's, like recycling, reusing, reducing, and how we can save our planet. Yes.
And are the children open to it in school and in the community? Do they take it up?
Yes. I have even planted 52 trees with them.
Yes, I saw that initiative. Actually, and when we're talking about even planting of trees, it's one of the things that will also help in terms of restoration and sustainability. More so, even Gracia Machel had a recent engagement outside the main summit, and she was speaking to youth a lot. She was speaking to adolescent girls actually here at KICC. One of the things that came out of that interaction with the adolescent girls is the girls, especially from the marginalized communities up in the north, even areas such as Kajiado here in Kenya, are saying they want more funding in projects such as planting of trees. This for them is a way of restoration. And for her to raise that concern, being a young girl, a lot of young girls in terms of teenagers and youth are also being taken advantage of when it comes to the northern areas when they trek long distances to go and find water or to look for water, you know, because water is a precious commodity. And it's quite unfortunate that matters climate change have come to that adverse effect. Now they've even taken a turn for young women and girls to be taken advantage of in terms of these commodities. You're seated there as a brother, as a sibling. What would be your voice in that?
If I may add, I think the issues of climate change have different facets. How can we solve them in different ways? And I feel like we keep on coming with solutions to the communities, and we don't even involve the communities in the solution making. So I feel like in various spaces, especially in the rural area, we need to actually approach the youth, the people that are in danger, that are people that are vulnerable, that are going through those fields to fetch water, to bring necessities for their homes, asking them what they actually want. Through their indigenous knowledge, maybe there's a lot of things that we can grasp and actually incorporate in their solutions. I feel like from a wholesome view, we might see that there's a solution that we could give the community, but the community already has the resources, already has the knowledge, and how can we bring in the young ones that have the education or the means or the willingness to actually be part of the solution and actually bring the solution on the ground?
Maybe to add on whatever my brother just said, we know very well that when climate change strikes, there are two people who are highly affected and hardly hit. These are the young people and the women. When you go back some few months ago, our northeastern was affected.
Very much so.
The people that were highly affected were the school-going girls. The young boys were a little bit, but the young girls had to stop the education. The children, the mobility had to stop. A lot of malnutrition were just affecting the girl child. So it is our responsibility to make sure that we give a lot of emphasis on the children, because they're the people that will, if we don't bridge the gap, they're the ones that are going to suffer. We know that we hold their future, especially as the youth. We hold their future. So it's upon us to make sure that we give them, we handle the baton of this climate action when the planet is safe to them.
Alana, do you have anything to add on to that? I feel as though they've spoken like your big brothers. Okay. Just also another question following to that. When we spoke about the girls being taken advantage of and them dropping out of school, it's also resulted in the girls, when the drought season happened in a lot of areas in northeastern, boys survived,
Yes.
but also the girls had to be married off early.
Yes.
When they have one challenge of being taken advantage of when they're going to fetch water, either they're sexually abused when they're trekking for long distances. If that's not the case, their parents sell them off so that they can be able to get dowry. If that was not the face, because of what's happening around us, those girls could have had an opportunity to get an education.
Yes.
Should there be more championing when it comes to more so girls in marginalized areas? This is actually a very good question for Soina, but we can still proceed with that.
Well, there's a question that came yesterday, and it was saying that why do we fight? Why are we fighting for the girl space, and they are the majority? You know, it really brought so many questions in my mind. That you have the numbers, but why are you guys complaining that you are not giving that attention? But I came up with a solution. The only way to bridge that gap, let's start with the young girls who will come and solve the solution, who will come and solve the problem. When they are being empowered, we start it from the tender age. We make sure that we give them the best. I think the future is pregnant and the future is female, whether we like it or not. So the only way to make our country or to make the world, especially Africa, a better continent, let's give them a chance.
If I may add, this issue has also been visible in Ethiopia, as we are also in the same sphere, and
Yes.
the drought has been going on for the past 6 years, and that has been an issue, I think, also in Kenya. And the people that have been involved, surrounding this area, have been facing a lot of issues, even selling of their cattle, which is also part of their heritage. You know, like when we keep on speaking about these issues, there's a lot of social aspect of it, there's a lot of economical aspect of it, education, and so many other facets that we really need to be facing. And how can we use the resources that we already have, maybe in our countries, in our borders, in our vicinity, and incorporate the climate vulnerability issues, into this programs, because there are programs that do not touch upon these issues, but how can we engrave the issues of climate change and loss and damage, and also adaptation in these regards? The issues of women can be incorporated in adaptation. The issues of children can be incorporated in loss and damage, because we are the future. The women are the future. The kids are the future, and it's a necessity at the end of the day. If we're not going to be speaking in terms of a wholesome view from the ground level, it's just going to be speaking for the masses, and it's not going to be real at the end of the day.
When we talk about loss and damage, one initiative is a plantation of trees, and there's a push for going green. This is in terms of also infrastructure, because when we look back at all the calamities that strike the African region in terms of flooding, a lot of structures are actually destroyed. And one of the recommendations by UNICEF was going green and building green projects as well. Do you think that's sustainable for Africa? Also bringing it closer home for Kenya, do you think we're ready for that? Are we willing to set aside the money for that? In Ethiopia, are we willing to set aside the money for that and to start the project?
Loss and damage. COP27, we really pushed for loss and damage, especially to the young people. And it has not yet been implemented. And that's, I think, it's one of the agendas the states who are meeting down here are talking about. It was a good initiative, and it was a way that was going to help us, especially as Africans, because we know very well that, loss and damage are into two categories. We have the long-term effect and the short-term effect. But we told them that it's high time loss and damage to come back to Africa, especially as Kenyans. The North, we were really affected, but it hasn't yet been implemented. We don't know whether it's all about the boardroom meeting, but now when it comes to implementation, is a big deal. Sometimes we really need to approach this thing in two dimensions. It's all about through activism or through diplomacy, because we've tried diplomacy. In COP27, we did diplomacy. But we are so sure if they don't tackle it in this summit, we don't have an agenda to go to COP28 because loss and damage is a core thing, because that was the only way to solve our problem, because those are the things that we were going to put into our adaptation action plans, we are going to do in our mitigation strategies, but they haven't, so we don't know.
If I may also add, in regards to the adaptation fund, which was promised in Paris Agreement, almost $100 billion, is still not fulfilled.
Very much so.
The process of the UN is quite slow, and that's a fact. We can't really scratch that for any time soon, from what I'm understanding, and I think a lot of people are also understanding. That's also the reason there needs to be a global stocktake to actually transform what the current progress rate of the UN has been going on. And I think the Antonio Guterres is also trying to focus on how to really change the process. But we also have to understand that the private sector and other parts of non-state actors are not really incorporated in this ideology, because not only that, also the up-and-coming medium-income countries such as Saudi Arabia, South Africa, and other countries that could also be part of the solution are not incorporated in this solution because they're still considered as developing countries. There's a lot of intricate issues that have been faced, not only in loss and damage, but in the mass view of financial issues. So how can we transform the current financial state that we're seeing is something that I feel like what has been discussed in Paris in the past month, but it still needs a concrete action where there's always going to be a certain country or a certain organization that is willing to say something, but how are we going to account these organizations? How are we going to account these countries into giving the money? Because at the end of the day, Africa did not actually produce this issue. We were not the ones that have contributed to this climatic issue, but we have been facing a huge brunt of it, and it's also a moral issue. If we really take it really deep down into each of individuals, why we're here, why we're every day trying to discuss about climate change, we deserve our answers. We deserve our kids to see a world where they're not stressed, not only physically but also mentally. They need to be able to see a world where they can grow up and actually make a change without the stress of having a flood coming next to their homes. So this is something that I feel like which really needs even deep down transformation in UN and also in AU, because the biggest stakeholders that are potentially going to take our issues are regional organizations like AU. And I hope we will be able even to be much more stronger coming forward, because this is going to be a summit that is going to be hopefully biennial or in some way or form. And that's going to really help countries, member countries from Africa, to really be strengthened, strengthening their negotiators, but also their financial capabilities.
You've touched on something that's very important. There are 100 billion shillings. That's a whole topic of climate financing I want us to delve into.
Billion.
Billion, yes. To delve a bit later into, in dollars, very much so. And we're waiting for Kenya to actually see whether we're going to get our chunk in that as well. Alana, when we're talking about sustainability and tree planting programs, when you go around to do this initiative that you're doing for tree planting in different communities, do you also speak to the children regarding what type of trees they need to plant, which tree is good for longevity in terms of the environment and sustainable to the environment?
Yes. So far I have gone to actually to Ghana, and I planted green grams, proteins, and others.
Was that part of an irrigation scheme, or was it a broader scheme?
I think a broader. Yes.
And there are so many children who are also watching you right now and would want to be in the shoes that you are in, to at least have a voice. Do you believe that this summit, by the end of this summit, the voice of the children will also be heard and you'll have a key role to play?
Yes, because children are important. Because children spread the word. Yes.
And let's go back to climate financing.
Yes.
When we say we as the youth want solutions to what's happening around us, what we are seeing with our own eyes, and which is also the major key that is coming out of this summit. Yesterday, the US pledged $30 million into climate financing. The UAE has also pledged 7.5 billion shillings. When it comes majorly to the global north, who we're still awaiting for them to come to the table, more so because of the carbon emissions and carbon credits, do you think this is a fair play, more so for the Youth for Africa? Because this is not only going to impact, the decisions that are going to be made today will not only impact those who are making the decisions, it will impact you and the youth to follow.
I believe the global north are not real, because why do you pledge that you're going to do this, but you are doing less? They promise us, as African continent, they promise us $100 billion. Now they are giving us 30. And that $100 billion is not, last year it was like the other COP, it was COP 22. It was in Glasgow. They told us that they're going to give us 100 billion. But now in the summit, they're giving us 30 billion. Does it make sense? I think it's high time we do something.
Do you think they're dangling the carrot on us?
Sorry to say, yes.
Okay. Petro?
Tokenism.
Yes, it's okay.
I'm just going to add in tokenism. The youth have been used as the tools to talk about the youth issues. And I think financial issues are also used in that way, in some way or form, because it's really sad, because countries that are pledging this type of financial resources do not see the climate change in a way that it's a life and death situation, because we are representing a population where if you don't get the chance to fetch water for the next 2 days, you might actually be thirsty for the rest of the week. This type of issues should be explained in a way that they're also there. The people that have been facing this type of issues should also be there and actually be accountable. I keep on seeing this type of pledges here and there. This is not the only pledge that we have seen in the past couple of years, and these pledges are still not accounted for. But let me just also bring it back to us, because I feel like we keep on saying and talking about the West and the people from the other part of the continent, but how are we also managing the financial gains that we already have? The reason that there's no trust between countries and also the people that are giving the money and also receiving the money is because there hasn't been as much as of a trust from these countries, because they give the money, where's the report? So I think when we're speaking about finance, we also have to understand the governance of it first and foremost. Our continent have been impoverished for quite some time, and not only impoverished in money-wise, but also in governance-wise. We need to be able to see leaders that speak and actually do the things that they want to do. But not only from the top, all the way to the bottom, until the county level, until each and individuals, because the money is still coming, by the way. There's a lot of money that is coming towards Africa. But how is it managed? I mean, if we are able to show with the little amount of money that they're giving us that we are accountable and actually providing this amount of resources for this amount of people, I think that trust can be built in one way or form. And this way, we can secure our future. And in one way or form, the upcoming youth actually are the one that could potentially be reignited to work together. Because currently, they're all against each other in one way or form. But the youth, by the way, the youth issue everywhere is the same. When you go to the West, when you go to anywhere else, the youth are always united, because our issues are literally visible. They are much more coherent. They're much more understanding about each other's issue, because we're much more connected than the older generation. And when we're speaking about drought, maybe for somebody from a Western country, they actually understand it because we always talk about it and they follow our activism. So we need to be able to also be in those rooms to represent those types of discussions. And I know that there are a lot of friends from my end where they are speaking on behalf of Africa when we're not there. If we're there, we also have to have the responsibility to speak on behalf of our children. When the children are there, they also have the responsibility to speak about the people that are not there. You know, that's the type of way I really wish we could go further in the coming years.
I would beg to differ with you on this point. You know, when you say the West can be able to relate with some of the challenges that Africa youth do face. When it comes to climate financing, a lot of African countries actually do not have adequate finances in the kitty, as opposed to the West. When it comes to climate financing in the West, in case of a tsunami, anything happens or cyclone does happen, the people who have suffered in those places are well cushioned. There's a kitty for that. And that's why you find a lot of African youth and children are adversely affected because we don't have the money. We don't have the warm blankets in terms, now the El Nino is coming. We don't have the warm blankets in the event that those who are going to be have to be evicted from their homes because their homes have been washed away by the flooding. The other thing also that you happen to mention, and I think it's also something that's very important for us to speak on, is the money that's coming in. So is it an issue for faulty systems? Because one, we have youth here saying they want to be included in the conversation. With the signing of the charter and the conversation with the president on Sunday, a lot of the youth say they're hopeful now, they want green financing. But now, this is the thing, when the money comes into the African economy or the African continent, one thing I'm gathering from you is that once the money gets to the right hands or the right or the wrong hands, case in point how you'd like to look at it, it's either there's mismanagement of funds. So do you think Africa, the issue at large is more of a broken system that needs to be fixed? Because if we keep on crying and crying and crying, we're not being heard, we need this, we need that, there's still major issues that need to be fixed.
Well, Aura, I think this issue of financing the youth or youth to be part of the financial negotiation, I think we are ripe for it. So many youths outside here have projects. One of the ambassadors, we were invited into the Swedish embassy, and we told them that youth has so many projects. What we want these finances. Let them bring them in the country, but let them go to the right places. Let them be channeled to the local level. That's where projects comes. As our president states it, we have to approach it from a bottom-up approach. But the very moment this money comes, but it doesn't reach down there, there's nothing that you're going to be doing. But we are ready as youths. Let me tell you, there are some focused youths who knows what they want to do. The challenge is that fund is not reaching down there. So we hope, and we are still optimistic, and will still remain optimistic that when the funding comes, as youth, we are ripe to manage it. Because climate change has taught us a lesson. It has taught us a lesson whereby climate change is affecting our lives as the young people. So when that green financing comes, we'll not joke with it. We are going to invest it into our projects. When you walk around, we have youths, like especially in these competitions, the world competition, who normally emerge the top. It's an African youth. They have great minds, but the problem is the financing. But we want to tell the world, African youths are ready to handle any kind of resources, whether green financing, as we're okay. But we are still urging our leaders who are top there, kindly promote bottom-up approach when it comes to green financing, because projects are real.
Yeah.
So, Jadahi, let me just put you on. So the bottom-up approach was to start, this is now in Kenya. I'm sure in the few days you've been around, you've had a bit of lingo that's been going around. The bottom-up approach has been now to lift from the hustler up until the Monanchi who's up until the top. Does Ethiopia relate? The same?
Of course. I mean, this idea of working from the bottom to the top is actually something that even as an Africa have been trying to work on, trying to engage, trying to work. But let me try to also add in something to what my brother was saying, is that when the finances come, are we going to use them for meetings and catering and engagement and workshops that are not really significant for some people, or individuals that have been learning about this for quite some time? are we even opening the doors for people, or at least to learn from some of this opportunities? So I think when you come to finances, but also when I'm talking about accountability, there is still some amount of money, but it's not directed to the right resources, so for the right projects. As you said, there's a tsunami that we have been seeing in the southern part of Africa. There's so many other issues that we have been facing, even as a continent, but we still see that there are going to be events. There are going to be things that we are really not incorporating in these discussions. But anyways, so coming back to the Ethiopian perspective, maybe is that there hasn't been much of an involvement from the bottom up, rather than working in silos. Like there's a lot of groups, there's a lot of organizations on the ground that are working, that are getting their opportunities from maybe from abroad or from somewhere else, and also the government working on great initiatives. I don't know if you know, but the Green Legacy project that the Prime Minister is leading is planting around 5 billion trees almost every year, and which has been trying to also grow beyond the borders. That has been helping really incorporate the youth to be entrepreneurial, and also providing by seedlings. They're also part of the catering and also gardening sessions. That's something that I feel like the government is trying to incorporate the youth and also the people that are working on the ground, so that they can work together. But planting the trees is not only the only way to make our world greener, and there's so many innovative ways that my brother was also pointing out that needs support, that needs more incentivization, that needs more incubation to actually have better outcomes. Thank you.
We'll still get back to the tree planting, because even in Kenya, our president has an initiative by 2030 as well. But when we talk about financing and ensure the money gets to the right channel, and now when it even comes to financing for children, when it comes to matters climate change, because when you look globally, only 2.4% of funding has been put to children to ensure that also children are not affected. Alana, what would you like to see when it comes to the kitty for children? When it comes to climate change, do you want the government to put more money, and do you want to see a lot of children, or at least being helped around?
I would have told the president and the governor to support us as children, to give us food, to help us in the northern side, because the way they are suffering from the drought.
You know, the rain season is also coming in October, and there are some children also, if the counties are not well prepared, some children will also not be able to go to school. This is because there will be flooding in some particular areas, flash floods, as well as those children now, their education will be affected and they will have to move away. What would you like to see in certain areas so that the children are not affected?
First of all, I would have been very sad, because sometimes children die, they don't have homes to live. Yeah. And I would actually, if it was me, I would have gone where there is actually floods. And I would have actually gone and contributed to them for food, because sometimes it is hard for them to get food.
You know, what she's saying is actually very important, as opposed to also waiting for the government to do something. Yeah. Her project is from an individual level. She told her mother that she'd like to be a champion of the young, for the children in matters climate change. So now, as the youth, instead of us crying and waiting for the government to do something, what else can the youth do?
Well, I think this is a generation that we will not like to lose, because they are the ones who suffers the most when this climate crisis strikes. I wish the government could take advantage of the kids' numbers. They have the numbers too. 15 billion trees is not a joke. So far, we haven't even attained even 1 billion. But the very moment when we give these young children a platform and you connect them with that initiative, it will fasten the initiative. For the youth sides, this thing, let the initiative of planting of trees be given the youths as their thing. Localize the issue. Make the planting of trees, make the 15 billion tree planting, make it a youth conversation. Try to give them that ownership the very moment they own it. Look at how the TikTok guys has made the youth to own the TikTok. Why does the government not make the youth to own it? Because tree planting is a big deal. Yesterday, one of the speakers said that the carbon sink is not all about planting trees. Carbon sink is all about growing that tree. We don't want to plant 15 billion trees. We want to grow 15 billion trees. Our carbon levels are up. And especially who are feeling the heat are the young people. So let the young people rise, take the initiative, make it yours. The very moment we play our part to make sure that we plant these trees, it's our planet that we are helping. It's the environment that we are going to live in as youths that we are protecting. It's a good initiative that is going to help the world. But there's another thing that we had yesterday, that we want to commercialize forestry, which I don't know. With the time we'll talk about it. But there's an organization that has built a story building by the use of timber. They're saying that timber is a carbon sink. So the very moment we make our houses using timber, but I don't support it. Let's plant trees. Trees are a good thing, but let's not commercialize trees. Let's not commercialize forestry.
Jodahi?
Well, Ethiopia has been going through this issue for the past almost 5-6 years. Then the youth have been speaking for quite some time. So coming from a country where we have been trying to put a record on specific tree planting sessions, it's very hard to really comprehend the reason of what we're actually doing. We don't plant trees for the sake of planting trees. We plant trees to grow them. And I think the government have been trying to incorporate various perspectives into this outcome. And now it's actually growing. You know, there's a mobilization of indigenous trees to be planted in some certain areas, and also fruit trees that are edible, because that could also support the food system that we're having an issue with in Ethiopia, and I think also in the rest of Africa. These type of projects needs their own research. I feel like in mass we might do great things, but we might also destroy a lot of things. There was this sad incident that happened in some part of Ethiopia where because the government was enforcing this law of this project on some parts of the country, that this area demolished a certain space so that they would plant trees, but they actually destroyed a forest for it, which was a funny incident where people do not even understand why they're doing it. People, when they take the planting bags, the plastic that they take, they just throw it away. So what's the point of you planting trees if you're throwing away that plastic, So there needs to be proper education for everyone in each and individual projects, in each and individual organizations, schools, so that we could really incorporate the solutions wholesome in a better way. And I really hope that Kenya also would forge this alliance with the youth, especially because they're the ones that are focused in as I said earlier, in seedling preparation, in transportation, and actually planting them, and growing them, and they're the ones that are going to see them grow. So they are the ones that are the best partners in this situation, and I hope that Kenya would actually learn from Ethiopia's mistakes that we have really seen over the years.
Just to add into that, when you happen to say that you want the conversation also to go to the grassroots level, because I do believe that not every youth in the country actually fully understands what climate change is. And from your panel where you sit, it's your duty, even as the youth who are leading these organizations, to be able to go to the grassroots level. And Kevin, you said your organization is fully involved at the grassroots level. Do you go to vast counties, and when you try and educate this youth before even they grasp the concept of now what is happening globally, not only in Kenya, in Africa, but even globally, is it easy to communicate the message, or are they a bit resistant to what's happening? More so when you tell them about tree planting, because not every tree is to be planted in terms of restoration of the environment. There's some trees that they suck water out of the environment. So you have to be careful what particular trees you're planting in this season as well, and when you're furthering the agenda of climate change. Is that the situation on the ground?
Well, Aura, I'm representing the voices of the marginalized space. My organization is based in Mukuru kwa Ruben, Embakasi South. I represent the interest. That's where it should start. That's where the youth numbers are. I'm so proud to represent them on the global level. I'm so much thankful for the NTV platform. You've started to give a voice to the marginalized space, because most of the time people who normally come to the panel are people who even doesn't even understand what the grassroots are speaking. If you see me, you see the grassroots. I used to be brown, but the climate change is the reason why I'm a little bit dark. But I'm so proud of my community.
Alana, do you believe him?
Alana, I wish you could see me some years back before climate change strikes. I used to be more lighter, like Aura. So this issue,
Sunscreen.
this issue of climate change, localizing and simplifying, it should be an agenda for each and every person. This thing should start from the grassroots level. When that Mama Mboga or a young person from Mukuru or a young person from Kibera understands all this thing of climate change or climate action, it will grow. But the very moment when you don't take it down there, they will not get about it. So far, after this summit, we are organizing some grassroots summits so that they understand whatever is happening where we are. Not everybody can access where I am. So it's our role, it's our initiative, like every person who has attended this summit, to make sure that the grassroots people understand this thing, because they are the ones who are going to come with this solution. In my community, we have the young people who are doing urban farming. We have young guys who are doing energy transition, green energy transition. These are the stuffs that when people from the grassroots start to do them, we are going to finish this crisis at a very high rate. So it's upon our leaders. Let's have the talks here, but let's walk the talk. Let's talk less. Let the action from the grassroots be at a higher level. Yes.
Judai also happened to mention that it's time we move the conversations outside the boardroom, outside such conferences. And President William Ruto had actually mentioned that he does not want to hear over COP29. Because, I mean, we are trying to mitigate climate change, and we're increasing carbon footprints wherever we go. Is this the same case when it comes to Ethiopia? The youth on the grassroots level, do they understand what climate change is? Or are we just talking, it enters one ear and comes out through the other ear?
It depends on what we define climate change as. I believe environmental protection has its own perspective. When you go to a farmer and you speak to him or her about rain, he or she would tell you when it's going to come, how it's going to come. That has been disrupted in one way or form for the past couple of years, you know. When you go to some individuals that are in the rural place and also in the urban place, there's different perspective that they would understand climate change as. I feel like we are not able to think globally and act locally in one way or form. And one of the ways that the Ethiopian government is really trying to incorporate is trying to bring in climate change into the educational system, into the educational syllabus, so that it will be able, one, the educated individuals would have a sort of an understanding of climate change in one way or form. But when we're really speaking about climate change, a lot of individuals don't really understand it from a global perspective. So how can we use the resources that I just want to come back again to the indigenous knowledge, these individuals, these families that are found in the rural part of our countries that have the resources, that have the means, but don't even know how to connect them. Or if they have the resources, they know how to connect them. Or even share the knowledge that they have to the masses. So that's something I feel like that still lacks in Ethiopia, and also I think in the rest part of Africa, where the knowledge that our parents that they have for quite some time is not actually commercialized. It's not actually shared across all over. Because for the sake of Ethiopia, for example, we have different systems. You know, like Gada system, we have Chambalala. There's so many other institutions, social institutions that already speaks about environmental protection. but we're not even using them. We're still sending some policies from the government so that they would enforce them. But they would truly understand. For example, if you go to some part of Ethiopia, in Oromo people, they have a Gada system where they teach about conserving a certain plant, especially a very big tree that they feel really sacred to, and that is it's also where they learn. That's where they how do they say, how they communicate, they engage, they socialize. So they really understand the needs of trees in a different perspective, not in the way that we are learning in our schools. So how can we use the resources, the ways that they have understood climate and environment protection into what they actually want to work on? So that is something I feel like they're still lacking, that we're still not really looking back to. Because if we really go back to each of our counties, each of our regions, we understand each streams, why they're there, how they have accumulated in that area, why is this lake happening, have this many fishes, how many trees are there here. These are the type of researches that should be done locally and could potentially help the global south in one way or form, and also in general the global.
A quick one. There's something my brother has just touched. There's something that we need to apply, known as community science. Community science, this is whereby we engage the people from the local region who understands it and the professional ones. You get, this one is going to fasten the crisis fight. Yes.
Alana, I saw you strongly agreeing with what Jodai was saying when it comes to integrating this in the school system. Do you think it's time now, with the change of syllabus actually, and now with the CBC, that the government should fully integrate climate change and also make it more practical when it comes to, so that at least children now in school, as they're learning and progressing to become the future youth, can be able to be fully aware of what climate change is from the local grassroots level up until the global system?
Yes, actually, in our class, we have a subject called SST. It stands for Social Studies. We learn about climate change a lot. Yeah.
I do understand you learn about climate change, but what I mean now is the fuller scope. You know, when now the teachers are telling you when it comes to tree planting, what are the best trees to be planted, when it comes to now what's happening in terms of the north of Kenya and now the changes of El Nino, why this is the case. You know, and the normal syllabus, it could be just brushing, but now going in depth, do you think that could help?
Yes, but I don't have an answer for that.
Okay.
But next time,
Yeah.
well, I will have an answer.
Okay. But what you're learning now in SST is also giving the children a slight more knowledge about what's happening?
Yes.
Good. That's good. Okay.
That's awesome.
So this is now Kazi Kwenu.
Kazi kwetu.
Kazi Kwenu,
Yeah.
to task the youth to
Yes.
now when they're outside school, you even now give them more knowledge on what's to come when it comes to matters climate change. But even before we wrap up the conversation, and in Kenya, Jodai, in Kenya we have a dumping site. It's called the Dandora dumping site. And air pollution is one of the causes, one of the effects that are being felt in terms of climate change. We cannot talk about climate change and not talk about the health effects that it poses to a lot of people. In the dumping site that's there in Dandora, it's actually the biggest that we have in Kenya, and there's a lot of emissions that are coming out of there. This is now leading to air pollution. It's increasing the cases of asthma. The cases, according to WHO, they released a report saying that between 5 to 18, at least 14% of the children between guys aged in that particular age bracket have asthma. And at that particular, and that's not only it, they're increasing annually. So this also begs to ask the question, now that we're having all these issues at hand, should there be better systems also in how we as a country can be able to manage, number one, air pollution? Because yes, the population is increasing, but even as the population is increasing, the air that we are now taking in, it's causing more respiratory ailments when you look through the report that we have as well. And the other thing that also I want us to talk about, the reemergence of diseases due to climate change. It's something that is also now a concern, because now we have cases when we are experiencing the drought season, increased cases of malnutrition. We have increasing cases of cholera as well. this we can relate across most of the African countries. Is there a better way we can ensure as youth there are also systems in place that can be able to mitigate these ailments?
So if I
Go
may,
fast, Jodai.
Sure, thank you. To also relate with the current situation in Kenya, in Ethiopia, especially in Addis Ababa, the capital city of Ethiopia, there's also a place called Rapi and also Koshe. Koshe means actually dirt or dirty. This site in the past, I think, almost 3-4 years ago, there was a flood that actually happened where it demolished a lot of scavengers that lived in Koshe, because I mean they could scavenge a lot of things and they could sell it. So people that lived there for quite some time. And one of the things that really fascinated me first and foremost is the data that you pointed out earlier, and we don't have that data. See, I think that's where we should start first and foremost, in really trying to incorporate the data into the solutions. I don't think in most places, especially like in Ethiopia, we don't have local researches that are being done in such places. What is the air quality of these places? What is the water quality of our countries, of our continent? What is the solutions that could come from these solutions? There hasn't been much research done, and even like for us, from the grassroots, when we go there, we can only share what we have done on the ground level. And we cannot speak on behalf of the rest of our region because we don't have essential researches to actually point out and bring in different stakeholders into this discussion. Another thing is, in the global scale, the WHO started working on climate change very recently. The WHO, so the climate change have been working in silo for quite some time. They have been trying to bring in different stakeholders, different type of actors that are working on climate change in very gradual state. And the health issue, especially in regards to health, recently, and I think in the past couple of COPs, are the ones where there is health pavilions where WHO and other organizations are there representing and actually sharing what they have been doing in regards to health. And that actually shows the type of transition that we're seeing, that now, when we actually make a personal statement about the health issues of our continent, of our youths, of our people, that's where climate change becomes personal. That's when we understand it's not only the heat that we are facing right now, it's also the internal personal issues that we're facing because of our health. And that needs to be something that really need to take care of in one way or form, that we need to bring in different actors. I really want to really say again that there's a lot of private sector, there's a lot of CSOs that are working on the ground that are not part of this discussion still. How can we bring in the solutions to them without incorporating them? That's something I really wish that the health system, and also not only in Ethiopia but also across the regions, on how we can use the resources that we already have. And I'm going to stress this again and again. There's so many indigenous knowledge that we're still not really using to our advantage in most of our spaces. And how can we use them for our health benefits as well? And how can we make it much more personalized?
Well, in a Kenyan context, most of the NDCs, non-communicable diseases, have been caused by air pollution. We know very well in a few days ago, we have an article in the Nation, in the Daily Nation paper. It was talking about our Dandora status, Dandora dumping status. It's like we have started to politicize our Dandora dumping site issues. We know very well that it's affecting our health status. If you do your research in all the hospitals within Nairobi, specifically where Dandora is located, most of the health issues are pollution-related diseases. So it's upon us, as the policy makers and the policy implementers, let us implement the policies that are supposed to be implemented. If we just stick to the policies, both the national policies and the local, the county policies, let us do what is right at the right time. Because the Dandora issue is a platform that can even help us Kenyans, because we can transform it. Because of late, we wanted to transform our waste into energy. The very moment we'll be turning our waste into energy, we will be killing another problem of health issues. We'll have good management. It's all about good management and doing what is right and applying our policy at the right time.
Okay. I do understand time is not on our side, but this has been a very engaging conversation. I'm going to give each and every one of you just a minute or half a minute to wind up. 30 seconds, 40 seconds at least. 40 seconds to a minute just to wind up. And for the two gentlemen, also my parting question to you two is going to be, with the charter already being signed, and today we're expecting the Nairobi Declaration, in the event the youth are going to be shortchanged and receive a raw end of the deal, we have to be optimistic, the good and the bad.
Yes.
I would like to hear your thoughts on that. But now, first, let's start with the lady. Alana, what are your expectations by the end of this summit? In conclusion, what do you have to say about this issue?
First, my message will have been, we act now and save the planet.
Okay, and I want you to look into the camera. There's a lady. Your camera is that one. There's a small girl who's watching you at home and would want to be involved in what you're doing, and matters environment, championing for the environment and matters climate change. What can you tell her, or what can you even tell the small boy who's watching you?
We never give up, because if you give up, sometimes you will tell yourself, I don't think that I'm going to do it, but you can do it.
Thank you. But all right.
Well, as the host, Kenya, let me give my Ethiopian welcome.
You've started
Karibu.
politics on the seat, eh?
To just quickly wrap up, I just wanted to point out that there's a lot of policies that have being processed all over Africa. We have to bring in AFCAFTA into this discussion. We need to bring in various policies that have been regionally and also even country-wise that have been pointed out. And how can we incorporate these policies, these resolution that is going to be pointed out in alignment with that? Because we need to incorporate climate change everywhere. This is something that needs to be mainstream everywhere, and hopefully we can understand the solutions without our borders. We need to be able to share our resources, understand the various needs that we have with our institutions, with our knowledge, and also our charm as Africans.
All right.
Well, if our declaration doesn't attain the youth issues, I think we don't need to go to the COP, because it will be like the same summit. So we are still optimistic that Nairobi Declaration is going to touch on the youth declaration, and we are still optimistic. Well, climate clock. Each and every moment, clock ticks. We have a climate emergency. Each and every moment, let's take action. Let's take action. Let's do away with our fossil fuel. Our temperature are rising, and they are rising at a very high level. Do something to bring it below 1.5 degrees. Our policymakers, let's make policies that are going to make our planet a happy planet. Country Kenya, let's still continue fighting the climate action fight. It's a worth fighting war. The more I do my part, you do your part, we are going to win this war. I'm Udongo Kevin from Mukuru kwa Ruben. I'm proud to come from Mukuru. God bless.
All right, thank you so much. Well, it's always engaging speaking to the youth when it comes to matters climate change and what needs to be done. We're here, today's day 3 at the Africa Climate Summit. We're expecting the Nairobi Declaration by the end of this summit today. And as usual, when you're speaking to the youth, the conversations never end. This should have been a conversation. We should have extended more time, right? But we shall schedule that a little later on. Thank you so much for staying tuned with us here at NTV. My name is Helen Aura. I have been your host for today. Looking forward to engaging and interacting with you all. Now we can hand over to the main panel at the Savo Ballroom, the main event.
For watering the Youth Climate Champion seat, this will be an